BFF Report. I'm your host, Mike B, aka Phony. Today we're going to be talking about Rift. Now, have you ever been in the battlegrounds and everything's cool, you're fine, but then there's some guy whose balls are just not on point? Now let me tell you something. If you're in a battleground and your balls are not on point, the whole team suffers because of it. So, this week's episode of the BFF Report is going to be focusing exclusively on PvP, and you can share it with your friends that are going to be playing Rift, and this is basically Phony's guide to keeping your balls on point while PvPing in Rift. By the time I had reached 21, there were only two Warfronts I had access to: the Black Garden and the Codex. You can queue for Warfronts from pretty much anywhere in the open world, and when you're done, it'll put you right back where you were. Now, besides the positive emotional benefit and the egotistical gain you get from handing some cocky bastard mocking you from a ledge a lightning-encrusted bull rush blitz to the face before carrying away their prized possession and thus carrying your team to victory, Tryon has also seen fit to award you with two forms of currency for spending your time PvPing. One of them, you may have heard of it before, it's called Experience. The other one is called Favor. Experience is given out for just about everything outside of disconnecting. You get XP for kills, XP for point gain, and XP, of course, for winning or losing. Between 17 and 20, I was getting around 8 to 12% of a level per victory, which isn't bad. The downside is I wasn't getting any gear out of it. That's not to say that I couldn't get any gear out of it, because looting players does in fact occasionally yield fat loots. I just didn't happen to win any rolls, ended up with bags full of hand-me-down swords and crappy health pots. Favor can be used to buy various pieces of gear, as well as PvP souls. The souls are designed in such a way that they have virtually no use in PvE, since the majority of the mechanics requires a target to be a player and not a mob or NPC. They are also set up so that the top tier benefits can only be accessed through a narrow progression path. For example, the Vindicator has 4 top tier skills: Phalanx, Second Wind, Aura of Vengeful Wrath, and Unstoppable Force. Phalanx gives your entire party a 50% damage reduction buff on a 2-minute CD. Unstoppable Force makes you immune to slows, snares, and roots for 10 seconds, etc. See, they all serve completely different needs, but you can only get one, and if you try to go for a hybrid setup, you won't get any. As of right now, it's pretty much up in the air if the top tier abilities would have favorable functionality in PvE over other souls, but a 50% damage reduction to your entire party does sound like it'd be pretty OP in any instance situation. Now, before you guys start thinking that by the time you hit your mid-20s you're going to have this thing completely maxed out, it's actually set up so that you cannot progress past the first tier unless you increase your PvP rank, and as far as I can tell, you can't do that until you hit 50. So let's get down to some of the less important details of each map, such as, how to play and not piss off everyone around you. Primary goal in the Black Gardens is to be the team that holds onto the Fang the longest. The person that is holding onto the Fang is constantly taking damage, and that damage will ramp up. So if you're a healing class, do us a huge favor and heal the Fang carrier until he dies. Now, since there's no way to actually hand this thing off, because once you have it, you can't actually let it go, the best way to coordinate a handoff is simply to stop healing him at the right time. Now, it is essentially a center-focused map, where the closer you are to the center, the more points you get. The terrain is set up in such a way to allow even the most uncoordinated teams to make a decent choke point. As you can see here, we did so good that these guys basically gave up. It's just like you're griefing them on the way up, they can't make it all the way to you, by the time they get there, they're practically dead. It's a standard choke point strategy. The biggest downside to this strategy is that you're so far away from the center, you're only getting between 1 and 4 points per tick. And the only way to get 4 points is if you're standing close to this edge, and if you stand close to this edge, hey-yo! See what I'm saying? So that's pretty much the easiest way to get a slow win in Black Gardens. I'm not saying you shouldn't risk sitting in the center, because, the only problem with that is all the LOSing you're doing with all these objects, so your healers hate you, and oh, that's right, not to mention that you are also in the center of the map, so there's constantly an onslaught of people trying to kill you. The next map is called the Codex. If you played WoW at all, think Arathi Basin. If you played Unreal Tournament, think Domination. It is your standard resource-based game type. Of the 4 nodes, 2 are placed just outside of each faction's graveyards, and the other 2 on the opposite sides of the map from each other. Here's your all-around basic strategy. When you cap something, for the love of God, leave somebody there to watch it. It could be just one guy, that's all it takes. Also, don't let people cap your node right in front of you. That shit is just embarrassing and should never happen. So let's talk about the terrain surrounding each node for a second. On the Codex side, the node is elevated and has 2 ledges that tower over it on both sides. Of course, you can simply run around the back and go in for the cap, but having a few ranged DPS and healers utilizing the high ground would be optimal. Also, if you have a blink, teleport, or targeted leap type ability, don't be afraid to experiment a bit on this map. You'd be surprised what you could pull off. The vault can be easily accessed by this bridge, and the bridge can be easily defended by a handful of people if they coordinate their knockback and CC abilities. Of course, the flip side is also true, since it's not like you're the only one with these skills, but don't worry, 90% of the time the other team isn't as good at PvP as you are anyways, right? Wait, did I say the bridge was the only way up? Because, I mean, I kind of guess it is, unless you are a ninja warrior with a heroic leap-style mechanic that actually functions. Blizzard, please fix it. I'm pretty sure this doesn't count as hacks, since I'm simply using my given abilities and the terrain to my advantage. But it's not like it's hard for the other team to simply, you know, look behind them, pay attention to their flag every once in a while. Come on. All in all, the Codex is a good and seemingly balanced Warfront. Alright guys, so I'm kind of curious what you guys' feedback is. What do you think about Rift? And I know that for the most part the BFF report gets pasted around on World of Warcraft related sites, and so there's a lot of World of Warcraft players watching this right now. What do you guys think about Rift? Let me know in the comments below, or aka Mike B. Don't think that if you don't play World of Warcraft you can't comment on it, and don't say, oh, it's the WoW clone, because it's not. It maybe borrows little things from here and there, but then again, you could also call it a Warhammer clone, and then we might as well just call everything an EQ clone, and you know what, maybe DAOC also comes into play somehow. But we won't talk about that. So if you've ever played any of those other games, and you have some feedback and stuff maybe you want to say about Rift, feel free to let me know, comments below, or at aka Mike B again. So, I will see you guys next time. Next week. It's not going to be Rift though, it might be something else. See.